Trade me.
Right, councillors, please, welcome everybody. Welcome those people who are live streaming to today's ordinary council meeting of today's date, 30th of May. Call from apologies. I've received apologies. Councillor Carter, Councillor Lambert and Councillor Sharlin may be on Zoom some of the time. He's not on Zoom, sorry. He is currently unwell, so he'll take what he can. Would somebody like to so move, please? Councillor Wilson moving. Councillor Duncan seconding. Those in favour?
Right.
Those against? Carried. Thank you. We have no public forum today. Item 3. I'll remind councillors of the conflict of order of business. Sorry, conflict of interest declarations. Under the confirmation of order of business, we have a late item on road maintenance, which I'm prepared to accept. However, I'll move it to public excluded on the basis of contractual positions and the finances within that different contract. And confirmation of minutes. I'm looking for alterations and corrections, starting pages 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Would somebody like to so move? Thank you. Councillor Rokawa moving. Councillor Loudon seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Moving to item number 7, the follow-up actions from previous meetings. On this page, starting presumably from the top, working down, any matters to be raised?
I can make a comment on item 2.
Just can I declare conflict of interest
With regard
on
to
item 2 and the fact that I oversee the property that done.
Thank you, Councillor Morton. Record that, please.
So I confirm that we have done a site inspection and there does appear to be some tidy up that's required. And also we're aware of some material that still needs to be tested. So what I'm saying is that although the project may have been signed off, I do think there are some things that need to be checked or it's finalised.
Thank you. 3, 4, 5. Councillor Duncan.
Just to support what staff have in there, I was called, the chairperson of the Shearing Sports rang me to say that he had been in discussion with our staff but just wanted me to know that he was still going to pursue the possibility of this happening in future years.
Thank you. Item 6 from me, where it says the larger funders, we plan to approach Nexstar 4 Regions Trust, Whanganui Community Trust and Darling Trust. This is regards of the Gorges to See. Can I have an understanding of who we is?
Yes, through you, Your Worship. Just clarification too, in the past week, the group have got the draft documents to set up an incorporated society, so themselves as a trust or incorporated society would apply to the groups.
So the we is the trust, not we as in council.
No.
I think probably
Clarification.
that needs to be very clearly distinguished, please. 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship. Item 7, the update on that is that I have approached Mark Barnes, who's the project manager for that, and he is putting in that final submission to recover 200,000, so that is about to happen. It hasn't happened to date.
Thank you. That'd be fantastic. 8. 9, the Otara Bridge. Councillor Duncan.
Thank you. Your Worship, I've just this morning, and I believe that staff have also received an email saying that the bridge has unexpectedly been closed again without any community communications. So once again, I would like to say that if at all possible, our staff could give feedback that this is just the handling of this project is just a comedy of errors, except it's not funny for the community and that it's impacting our businesses.
Can you tell me, I haven't read the email, presumably it came to me as well, but I haven't had a chance to see it. Closure as of when?
This morning, I believe, but they have no information of, they only know that it's closed because it's closed. They haven't been told why, they haven't been given any timeline, but they can see that there are contractors working on it that are spray painting the bridge, but they've had no prior warning or information.
Councillor staff, I'd rather you respond than me because I'm not happy. Is there a
I don't
response?
think anybody over here is happy. I mean, we've raised this one, we got notified at the same time as you have. And we understand the same thing as it's spray painting, so whether it was scheduled or not, the reality is the bridge, as I understand it, is now closed.
Can I just ask, who has made the decision to close? You know, if this is the contractors just deciding that they will make a decision, surely that's inappropriate that it happens through.
Has to be made by Manawatu District Council, because as you are aware, nobody else can close the road.
There has to be an advertised process, doesn't it?
You can close it for emergencies and other things like that, but whether this constituted an emergency, it would be, unless it's got some sort of approval to close as required for the repairs of the bridge, and they've got a longer period of time. I'm only guessing.
And the email is substantiated that I'd hate to be having this discussion if it actually hasn't closed.
Well, I have complete confidence in the correspondence. It's coming from the main person who is overseeing this for the community, Brian Rendell, and he won't be wrong.
Thank you. Look, I'll leave this one with staff to please investigate and advise.
Thank you.
The only other possibility, Your Worship, is that they've closed it, but it's not formally closed while they do the painting. Made a decision on site to close it. But we'll investigate. That's the only thing I can think of.
Thank you.
I think I'll stop my conversation there. I've got nothing further that I can go. 10, 11, 12, 13. Councillor O'Connor.
Your Worship, has staff got any idea in terms of the MOU that has been submitted, when there might be, the considerations might be had, so that we can at least give an idea to BCC, to the committee?
Through you, Mr. Chair, unfortunately, it's just resource and time available at the moment. Yeah, it won't be before July. That's probably the best I can do.
Thank you.
Would somebody like to say move that the report be received? Thank you, Councillor Dalgety. Councillor Wilson, those in favour? Those against, carried, thank you. Moving on to the Mayor's report. I was going to take you through this at length. However, I'll take it as read. It's a couple of alterations, corrections in terms of my attendance. And the Pink Ribbon High Tea fundraiser in Martin, I didn't attend. And the Tiny House Association online meeting, the meeting was cancelled. There was also a meeting around I'll think of it in a minute. No, it's actually not on my register anyway, but it was a meeting cancelled because of technical difficulties on Teams. An infrastructural meeting from GHD.
It'll be next month.
So that will be rescheduled. So it has brought out the report. So any questions around the report? But I congratulate Councillor Wong, who was the recipient of the page 5 receipt. He won the chocolate award.
Yay.
I'll take any questions around the report.
There's a chocolate fish.
Chef, he's got it. Whoever bought.
One for me, Your Worship, first of all, thank you for the detail that you've listed in this report. I found particularly the bullet points that you've noted from your meeting on the 23rd of April with the road controlling authority. I thought the bullet points were very good, and I also thought that they were very relevant to some of the issues that we are facing as a council, and I think it actually highlights some of the issues well that we face, and it's good to see it in this order paper, which of course is a public document, because I think it really does highlight some of the work that goes on in the background, certainly by yourself, but also does highlight again some of the issues that we are facing as a council. I thought it was very detailed, and I wanted to thank you for that report. Thank you.
Thank you. And Minister Simeon Brown was very exact and explicit as to what he expected in terms of NZTA's delivering. And Nicole Rose, the Chief Executive, who spoke after Simeon, commented and said, never before has been a minister so direct as to the expectations. Particularly in roading, he wants to see change. Next question, I think.
I'd just
Councillor
like to comment on your report. Yes, very good long report. Took me ages to read it. It's taken a lot longer to write it. Just on page 21.2, I thought it was very interesting. That was noted that the average New Zealand household paid $2,900 in rates and $37,000 in tax, and it just highlights the imbalance that local government faces in funding. And I thought that was a very interesting point to note. Thank you.
Yeah, certainly what has happened in local government, the demands of local government and the things that we're responsible for has climbed at quite an alarming rate, but the level of funding hasn't changed. And this has left local government in a position of struggling to be able to afford. Hence, you've seen Three Water infrastructure literally being challenged, all those sorts of things. And everybody knows that the formula has to change, but government's certainly not in a position to be able to do so at the moment. Supplementary question?
Yeah, well, just comment about that. I was just thinking today's the budget and the government's looking to move to give tax relief or tax rates, tax decreases. But there's no, well, we don't know yet, there's no sort of increase in local government sort of spending by central government.
There's been many there've been many opportunities put to government. The return of stamp duty, the GST on rates, the fraction of the GST on GDP coming out of a region. All of those positions have been put forward under the future of local government work. That was quite an exhaustive report. The government hasn't sought to endorse it or address it in any shape or form. Councillor Duncan.
Thank you. Yes, amazing report, thank you. Just number 5, Nicole Rosie, Chief Executive NZTA. There are a couple of things in that I felt could actually go across the whole of the organisation. And for me as a councillor, during my terms, I particularly would like to bring attention to the bottom of page 17, where it says agrees that tier 2, 3 contractor should use should increase, etc. And I think that once again brings that to front of mind for me, that we should be doing that throughout a district, as well as dealing with multiple road issues at the same time. That this huge cost of road health and safety cones, etc. And that's just so sensible to deal with multiple road issues at the same time. For instance, the mowing, the maintenance, rubbish, power co issues, etc. So particularly that resonated with me. And finally, the Ngā Awa block, I see that that was a great day, and I think we have spoken of it since the beginning of netball season with the Ngā Awa block and being used. And also just need to mention that that has now been recognised with an architectural award. So I'd like to say congratulations to Barry for that. And it also reflects well on the community. So yeah, worth noting.
I was going to comment on exactly that. But the Chief Executive and Barry and Galen attended that evening in Palmerston at the university, and yeah, it's great to see a recognition of a project and project finished and done well, and project that came in on budget as well. So a great result all round. In terms of your comment with regard to tier 2 and 3 contractors, it was interesting the discussion from Kiwi Rail that said we actively pursue second and third tier contractors to work on our networks, rather than go up for a maintenance contract with, you know, the Hearns, Downers, Fulton Hogans of the world. Just a very, very different perspective to the way that we handle roads. Councillor Wong, did you have something?
I was just going to make a comment about our block.
Okay.
Yeah. Just one final one for me, your worship, if I may. Just hearing your comments too about and echoing the comments from Councillor Duncan about the tier 2 and 3 contractors, and also Councillor Loudon's comment about effectively what is the tax take across the country, and the split, which is somewhat disproportionate. It should be noted that this is something that LGNZ has taken and is strongly advocating for to central government, and certainly people like yourself, your worship, are strong in that space. And I think we as a council should take every opportunity to be strong in that space through LGNZ as our advocating agency, because as alone, I don't think we can move any mountains, but as a collective, we should be rattling the cage somewhat stronger than what we possibly are already.
Yeah, too. Thank you. And just before I close off, in terms of this report, yes, it is fairly lengthy, but I appreciate the work that my PA, Karen Kalpa, puts in. Makes it far easier that I can draft notes and comments and rough draft it, and to have a report of the calibre that comes out as a reflection on her as well. A very, very great resource, and I thank the Chief Executive for that. Right, I will move that it be received, and I've seconded to that. Councillor Duncan second. Those in favour? Those against, carried. Thank you very much. Move to item 9, the Chief Executive's report, and I will do the easy one first. Could it be received, please? Thank you, Councillor Dalgety. Councillor Hira seconding. Those in favour? Those against, carried. And we'll deal with the recommendations as they sit. I'll pass to you, whether you move it across the table. It's your call. Ms. Gordon.
Thank you. So yes, there are some key things in this report to note. So if we can just sort of maybe work through the report, and if there's questions on those specific sections, we can deal with them as we go through it. So just perhaps on items 2, 3 and 4, if there's any questions on those sections.
Right.
Regarding external submissions, so the review of the 2050 emissions target, I've got a note there that the staff or council does not intend to submit. That's purely been a resource and workload issue. The reasoning behind it's not that it's not important or relevant, but at times we have had to make a call about where we spend our time, unfortunately. Just on the, I've got comments there on the privacy amendment bill. Tai Tuara have written a really good submission, and we do just intend to support their approach. I note today some of the information around the census that's just been undertaken has come out, so that's going to be interesting, and staff are going to attend the webinar on the 2028 census. His worship noted in his report around the importance of submitting on the Waka Kotahi NZTA emergency work policies. So staff will be definitely submitting on that one, as it will have an impact on the council. And the next one, and I just want to also note that in the upcoming consultations, at the time of writing this, we hadn't been notified that the legislation on the Maori wards had been put out, and basically Friday afternoon we got that notification that the submission period had opened for that. But like I said in the correspondence to the council and to Te Rupuahi Ka, submissions closed yesterday, so that's such a tight time frame to try and put anything together. But I do note, Your Worship, you put out the Tai Tuara one, and people submitted individually if they wanted, but that was very disappointing.
Yes, councillors, there's been a piece in the paper around Maori wards, and where I was approached for comment, etc. Subsequently, I've had members of the public saying, you know, what right did I have to make a personal statement? And my reply to that was, first of all, we had been through a process of decision around at council formally around adopting Maori wards. That becomes the council position, and I'm free to comment on as such. But also, in the very, very short time frame that government put forward for this for submission was deplorable, and didn't give time for council to sit and discuss. But I did put it out to councillors as well. That's unfortunately the speed that government is wanting to operate at the moment. Yeah, carry on.
Thank you. So now that bill, once it's passed, we will bring something back to council for consideration of the way forward with Maori wards for this council.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to request, or perhaps I have a question around how we can give that a message to LGNZ that was not, that sort of timeline is not acceptable. I really think it's undemocratic.
Yeah.
And that message, I think, needs to go back to them quite clearly to push back to central government.
Yeah, just be very clear that the timeline was not set by LGNZ.
No, I understand.
For those on the listening, they had to respond within the same sorts of timeframes that we had. And as part of their submission that we jointly signed
Yes.
by 52 mayors, I think, was expressing that concern. Councillor Wilson.
Just on that last subject about the signature, that was a signature that you signed and was endorsed by this council for you to sign. So that furthers the fact that it was not a unilateral decision of by yourself.
Thank you. Councillor Hira.
I'd just like to make a comment about the article that was put into the paper and via our website, and just I want to commend our staff member, our communications person, for his feedback. This is the whole issue around Māori representation is something that if there's anything that's going to ignite things, it's something like that. And I think that his replies to many people that made comments was good. And I was pleased, because I can tell you that I'm sure that myself and a number of Māori ward councillors around the whole country would be getting exactly the same thing. And I just wanted to acknowledge a phone call that I got from Deputy Mayor, seeing how I was after that. And what I said to him was that that's nothing new at all. That sort of rhetoric is just pretty much an everyday thing. And so all you do is dust off yourself, and you keep moving on, and you keep working, and you keep doing what you do, not just for Māori, but for all of us. So I just want to put forward those people that use the keyboard as their way of choice. Just want to say that anything I've said has been said in a group situation where other people can hear what I've got to say. A little bit different from being a keyboard on keyboard. So just thank you.
Thank you. Carry on.
Thank you. We've included an update there from the New Zealand Geographic Board about the Macron over across the eye. So we're following that process, and like I said, we will make sure that we actually publicise that on our media channels when that opens. There's an update there on the buildings at Broadway High Street.
Councillor Loudon, sorry.
Just curious, there were three real estate agents approached and only one expressed interest. Did the other two say why they weren't interested?
Ask Jared if it's.
Yeah, so we did approach three and had an initial conversation with all three agents about it. Initially wanted more information. One very interested, another one not so interested, but decided to send us a response anyway, and a third one passed on providing a response. The reasons for it being challenging were you're not in a position where you're going to an open market for the best price. So the amount of work involved to isolate a potential buyer, in the current climate, they decided that it wasn't something that they wanted to pursue.
Thank you.
Next section is around.
Just before you go on to that, under 7.3, there seemed to be a request for an increase of budget there, but I see no resolute recommendation attached to it. Is that the intention of staff?
Can we come through existing budget?
Do you want it still to come back?
Well, my reading is it should be purpose, not addition budget.
Was there a recommendation to set the 36,000?
There was.
But there was a recommendation to set the 36,000, then it should be a recommendation to.
That's exactly my point.
Do you need that today, or is it next month?
If it's able to be done, then that would, if that's council's decision, then that would allow us to move forward.
Councillor Loudon.
On that note, can I ask for a sort of a general breakdown of commission versus marketing costs?
If it's a valid question, I'll certainly allow it. I'm starting to think that we need some advice coming back to us by way of a recommendation report to make the decision. I'm just a little bit.
So the commission rates will make up approximately just under $29,000 of their money, based on the property's capital values is how that's been assessed. And then there's an additional fund which is somewhat discretionary based on the amount of marketing that will be required. So the initial approach would be to go out with an initial marketing plan. If that doesn't get the right amount of interest that we're looking for, then that will need to be, I guess, further funds required, which is why we've looked for that increase.
I'll let you carry on, councillor Loudon. Councillor Moore seconding. We'll come second, councillor Moore, councillor Loudon, sorry.
So the budget 36.5 is what's been suggested. Is that primarily marketing and commission is only paid on sale?
Yes, that's correct. So 6,500 is the marketing, and then the rest is payable on sale or completion of sale.
Councillor Moore, you're next.
Why do you need a budget for commission? Because that'll just come out of the sale price anyway. So if you sell it for 50,000 or 5,000 or whatever, or 500,000, yeah, you've got no idea what the commission's going to be until you sell it. So why do we have to have a budget for it?
Valid point.
The only technical thing is that you did put a budget for at the time that it came through as to what you thought, but remember, you were probably going to be having 3 people and having 3 to assess, and you've got 1. And therefore, I agree with what you're saying, is that technically it'll go to the, from the sale of the property, but it has been there and was declared. So it did put a sum in.
Councillors, we haven't got a recommendation or report in front of us. What I will do is pass on with us. If there's something that can come back to us with some structure to it during this meeting, we'd consider it. Unless you have a motion that you want to put on the table, councillor Walls.
No, but I just would seek clarity that the commission is payable at a standard fixed rate as per a normal business transaction in real estate, set to the value of the sale price percentage and not a fixed commission.
That's where I was going.
So I would want to seek some clarity around that.
I'll pass on this. I don't have a recommendation currently sitting. Staff may wish to think about that. Move on, please.
Section 8 is around a contract for the road pavement marking rollover.
Yeah, I have some questions, comments around this, that you wish you might have been able to answer, Mike.
I am, thank you, Your Worship, for the opportunity. And this is on the back of a question yesterday. So really what this is a procedural request to council rather than a quantum. So what we are saying is we tested the market. We awarded the contract to this contractor on a 3+3+3 term. They've ticked all the boxes that's required, and it is an automatic rollover. And what I'm doing is notifying council that as we've awarded the contract, we will now roll it over to the second term. The quantum of what they will spend is totally dependent on the funding that's approved by NZTA and the program that's put forward, and the funding that's approved in the LTP. So we don't know what that is yet, but it is approved through those channels.
So, when I asked this question, the advice I got was that the total amount of that signed contract is 518,000. Is that not the case?
No, until we have a clear view and what funding is approved for what work items, we cannot confirm any of those numbers.
So that was just an extrapolation around what it could be.
I suspect that is what would have been applied for in the original works program. But as you know, that's been, there's some iterations in that, and we don't know what the final outcome will be.
So, take any questions for councillors. So this is just an advice that we've rolled over with an existing company. I'll accept that.
So
Moving on.
do you want to move to the recommendation on this one?
Yes, please. Thank you. The recommendation is the council approves the rollover of this contract 1121 pavement marking to Roadrunner Marcus for the second 3-year term. I also move looking for a seconder too. Councillor Wilson seconded, which is appropriate, Chair of Assets. Any questions? Any speakers? Put the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you. The next section relates to a request for a fee waiver and a request also from Mr. Esdott for compensation. And I've outlined there what these are in relation to, just noting that the reason it has come here is Mr. Esdott has asked for 100% of his fee to be waived rather than the amount that the chief executive had to agree to. So it's coming here, and then there's a further request from Mr. Esdott for compensation for what he claims of distress and
Distress.
damages. There's a recommendation.
It'd be useful, councillors, if we're speaking to a recommendation here where it says agree or does not agree to grant 100% waiver on the annual verification fee. Councillor Wilson.
I'm happy to move that council agrees to the 100% waiver as it is over and above the chief executive's ability to waiver anything more than 50%. But I think given the circumstances of this one, that 100% waiver is appropriate. So I'm happy to move recommendation 3 on that basis.
Looking for a seconder to that. Are you seconding, councillor?
Yes, I'll second that.
You wish to speak further?
Pretty much stated it, your worship.
Any further speakers? Councillor Moore?
Is this, doing this, does it not, I'm looking to the next resolution to see if it compromises it in the fact that if we do this, are we admitting any liability or anything else?
No, it'd be a separate, the second recommendation is totally separate.
Thank you.
Councillor Hiram.
So my question was just, for that time frame, can we just confirm that, time frame of the annual, when this is getting waived? What time? So that's this financial, in this, so that will become, it's an annual payment? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers or put to the vote?
I have a question.
Yes.
So by so doing, which I don't disagree with, are we then in effect negating the fact that Mr. Esdott would then be seeking damages?
No, the set that dealt with in the second recommendation.
Right.
Councillor Moore.
Just another, in the background information, it says that Mr. Ross agreed to waive 50% of the fee, resulting in the amount remaining payable of $315. Yet in the resolution, we're saying we're waiving 100% of the fee for $315.
So I've already offered to waive that 50%, the first 50%, and this is seeking the full 100%.
So is the full fee $315 or 100 and?
630.
Go back, write a reply.
I think the questions have been relevant and probably asked by the committee, so I don't want to write a reply.
Put to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Sorry, you against?
I'm against.
One against. You wish that recorded?
Yes, please.
Councillor Loudon voting against and will be recorded. Moving to the next recommendation, this is with regard to financial compensation for distress, etc. It'd be useful again if we were speaking to emotion people. Councillor Moore.
I'll move that the council does not agree to apply financial compensation to Mr. Escott to the value of nothing.
Happy to second.
Happy to second. You wish to speak to your motion?
I think staff have handled it as best they can. I think we've done our bit in the previous resolution, and that I don't think we can, everybody had moaned and groaned that we're unfair, and we'll get these requests all the time. So on that, I don't think it's valid. It's a valid request.
Any further questions or speakers? In which case, I don't really think you need a right reply. I'll put it to the vote. Because no one is speaking against you. Put to the vote, those in favour, that we do not. Carried, thank you. Anybody against? Right, thank you, carried.
All right, thank you. The next section relates to some items that came up as part of the long-term deliberations earlier in April.
Yep.
And so that we're just dealing with those one at a time. I'm happy to take any further questions on the UAGC.
I'll just speak to that. This is what I thought would happen. In effect, I anticipated that the legal advice would be that we would need to deal with it by way of consultation, and the appropriate place is the annual plan. So we need to make sure that actually that does happen, and we need to signal back, if that is the decision, we need to signal back to those people that submitted to say that will be the process. Councillor Duncan.
Yes, I'd like to thank staff for providing me with the information I needed to have confidence that this was the right way to do it, because I had misremembered the process. And so thank you for staff extra time finding me those documents and giving me confidence that as the proposal is the right way to go. Thank you.
Quick question for me, how do we ensure that it's going to be captured? Is there some way that it doesn't, I mean, there's lots happening, doesn't slip off the radar that it's an action from Councillor Duncan's wanting in the annual plan?
I suspect Councillor Duncan will still be here and remember.
Councillor
It's really
Duncan
the
will be
forefront of
putting
their
a
mind,
Okay.
quite appropriately, don't get me wrong here, but
And also when we start the annual plan process very shortly, we start with reviewing revenue and financing. If there's any rate types that we want to have a look at, all those things will happen in the next few months.
Further to that, I was looking to do a recommendation 8. Is it appropriate to do that now? Or we'll just, as we go?
recommendation 8, can we just scroll down please to recommendation 8?
Oh, there is an 8. Oh, well, I was going to put in a further one, sorry. On my
quite a
page, we
few.
got up to 7. That, which would read that the UAGC is reviewed as part of the 2025/26 annual plan process.
I'm quite happy to receive for you to put that. So we'll call that 4A if you like, 4B or whatever. Is there a seconder to that? So Councillor Wilson, no, effectively the staff have said it will happen, but it is appropriate to get that right. Do you wish to speak further to that?
No, simply to say that that it has been a robust process of bringing that back to us, and I think it's appropriate that it is reviewed, and I'm very happy that staff has supported that.
I think it does go into the resolution database, so I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you.
Sharon's just joined.
Thank you. We welcome Councillor Sharon. Do you have a question, Councillor?
No, he's just.
So are you talking to me, your worship?
Just joined the meeting.
Yeah, just signaling that you've joined the meeting. Thank you. We wish you well, by the way. We'll move on, please.
The next one is around toilet facilities at Walker Park in Bulls, and this again was a request that council staff put some more information around this one, and Galen is happy to answer.
I'll go to Ms. Prince first.
So this did come up in the 2021-31 long-term plan. And at that time, the resolution was lost, that funding would be put in the budget, and that was because of the proximity to Te Marapehi and Rangatiki Junction toilets. We have had a submission this time, and also at the Finance Committee this morning, you would have seen in the feedback, there was another request they're suggesting toilets there. And just for elected members' information, the average daily traffic between the Bulls Bridge and High Street is just over 15,200.
With two toilets in between that stretch,
Yes.
public toilets, BP and. Councillor Wilson, you had your hand up.
Just for that information, that's 15,000 traffic movements. There's not 15,000 traffic movements stopping at Walker Park.
No, but it's just for pedestrians getting across the road.
Yes, I understand that, but I was actually looking to move the motion, recommendation 5, if I could.
So just take any questions around this. First of all, the recommendation includes effectively a new toilet connected to supply. You're shaking your head.
It's considering, which would be considering all options, your worship.
Okay. Yeah. Go councillor Loudon, councillor Moore, Councillor Duncan, councillor Loudon.
Is there any understanding by council staff as to the usage of Walker Park? I do go down there and there's generally always somebody there.
No.
I think just look, because we're going to get into discussion here, you're moving as consideration is your key word. I'm looking for a seconder to that as the annual plan. So councillor Loudon, you're seconding that. It's now open for discussion. Councillor Moore.
My question is, if this had been discussed before at a previous council meeting and lost, why is there even a budget there for it? It's saying increase the budget from 93,000 to 105.
We do know what it's saying is there's a facilities budget.
Sorry, that was just an estimate. If we were going to put it in the budget, that's how much we would have to put in the budget. So it's not currently in the budget.
The resolution has been put before to a previous council and lost.
The previous long-term plan submissions, so 2021.
And anybody can reconsider.
Yeah.
Doesn't rule out a reconsideration. Councillor Duncan, Councillor Dalgety, Councillor Duncan.
Thank you. Is Walker Park on the Te Awaroa trail?
Yes.
Yes, it is. People come into Bulls. Yes, it is.
Thank you.
And they cross the bridge and then duck away again. Councillor Dalgety.
Oh, I'm going to speak against this recommendation.
Can I just deal finally with questions first?
Yeah.
Councillor Hero, a question?
My question is, from when this came across the table in the previous term, what's changed? So it's always been where it is. There's always been traffic goes past it.
What's changed?
What's changed is all I'd like to know is what's changed.
The reason this is in here is because we had a submission, and when we were doing the deliberations, council asked for more information.
Okay.
Councillor Wong, and then we'll start discuss. Go back to this mover for the first. Councillor Wong.
Is there a pedestrian crossing across the road in the proximity of this park and the toilets?
No.
Councillor Wilson, you move the motion. You have the first right to speak to this.
I may reserve my right to reply and discuss it.
Councillor Dalgety, so you're not speaking in favour, you're reserving it. Well, you've moved it in
I'll
favour.
move it, so I'm in favour.
Have we got a second?
Yeah.
Councillor Dalgety.
So I'm speaking against this recommendation. I don't think a lot's changed since three years ago. We've got magnificent facilities. Let's say 200 metres up the road. or alternatively, they can use the McDonald's or the mobile toilets. I just feel this money would be better spent elsewhere in our district.
One speaker for, one against. Who else wants to speak? Councillor Moore.
I'm speaking against it on the same basis as councillor Dalgetty. There's plenty of toilet facilities, I believe, in Bulls on that side of the road as well, available if needed.
Councillor Lowland.
I'm speaking for, I think, State Highway 3 is problematic through Bulls and divides the town. I've been going past there on a regular basis. Walker Park is always being used. What's moved on is there are different councils at the table. Thank you to make decisions.
2 for, 2 against. Councillor Rakawa.
I'm speaking for it, in terms of coming from south to north. Yes, you can stop at McDonald's, yes, you can stop at the mobile. However, the turning traffic, the congestion at those sites is like horrific. I am in agreement with having it further down the road just after the bridge at Walker Park.
Any other speakers against?
I'm speaking against.
Go ahead.
The reason that I'm speaking against it is, so one of the things that's been, we went through an LTP process and you had a submission, one submission that came up for this kaupapa. My thought about it is that, and a number of us, and I don't want to mix it, but there's been a number of submissions for other things where there's been a heck of a lot more people that have submitted, and there's been decisions that have been made. And I don't feel there has been any change. Whakapi sits on a State Highway 1. It does not have any toilets on State Highway 1 at all. Bulls has 2. I'm just saying. So I'm voting against.
I'll go back to right of reply.
Yeah, and I may have caused some confusion here, Your Worship. There's a lot of smiles around the table. I'm asking staff to consider it as part of the 25-26 plan. That is what I'm asking. And that is what my motion is that I've put forward. I'm just reading the wording that's up there. I'm asking it to be considered as part of the 25-26 annual plan. And the reason for that is to allow staff to have time to understand the need and to consider options. So that is the recommendation that I am moving, and that was the direction, and Ms. Prince is quite correct, that is the direction that we gave staff in our deliberations, that we would accept it for consideration in the 24-25, in the 25-26 annual plan. So that is the motion that I am moving, not that we adapt or change the funding of 24-25.
Okay, right of reply, and let's put it to the vote. Those in favour of the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see where this could head. Those
Alan, put your hand up.
Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Is it appropriate to ask Paul what his hand is doing?
The motion as carried. Sorry.
It's Paul voted.
There's no signet, no hand going up on the screens.
Okay, so,
I can't anticipate a vote. The motion's carried.
Does Mr. Sherland, being a new councillor, does he understand that he can have a vote in this situation? Is it worth clarifying? Yes, you can.
You can.
Yes, you
If there's a
can,
quorum in
but
the
the
room.
council, that is up to the councillor to raise, not for you to raise on their behalf. I'm sure that councillor has heard this conversation. If he wishes to partake, then that's his call. Councillor Hero.
No, I'm just stating my conflict of interest on 3. But can I just say a couple of things? It's Mokai Pātea Services, not Mokia. The second thing to say that within the submission, there were actually 2 bullet points to it. This one, and I'm just saying that it's only looking at 1.
So we're talking about, this is recommendation 6, that the council, that's your conflict of interest. Do you wish to speak to, first of all, the report?
All I'll note there is that, as it was for year 2 of the plan, we consider bringing it back for the 25-26 annual plan, which was the staff recommendation anyway. So, and we'll cover the bullet points that were mentioned as part of those discussions.
Are we current tenants of the property?
So it does sound like there's some
We're still sorting out the
things
lease.
to go through, which is why we don't understand what the additional costs or resources are at this stage, which is why it is more appropriate to wait till we have all the information and do it as part of that plan.
So on the basis of that, are you wishing to change the recommendation that sits there?
No, there's not, because it's already in the deliberations report.
I was a bit confused. Not looking at the.
All right.
Okay, so just moving, shared services update, so we've just made a comment there just to keep you informed that we are working through with those transitioning staff and are expecting a full workforce on board on 1 July. There's another comment there around the roading contract update, and Your Worship, you've mentioned that it was in the public excluded section of the meeting. Cook's Wall, I'm not sure if there is any update on that one at this stage, Jared. No, we're still waiting quotes. So we are actively working on this. We go to the write-off of debts, but I have come up with a draft recommendation if you would consider it for the Broadway High Street buildings based on the commentary in paper.
Yeah.
And Jared's happy to provide further explanation if it's required. So that would be around that increase in the funding from the original resolution, which was 25,000, and covered within existing budget. Jared's happy to answer any other questions.
Questions from councillors? Councillor Moore.
I can understand why we need a budget for marketing. I still can't understand why we need a budget for commission. Because that will be, I'm presuming it'll be a percentage on the sale. And we don't know what the sale cost is, so we don't know what the commission is going to be.
So some of this might be driven by the accounting treatment. We have to show commission as an expense and the gross proceeds from sales separately. So even though the proceeds will ultimately fund the commission, in terms of getting a budget in there for the OPEX line, we're doing the resolution to put the budget in. It won't be debt funded, it'll be funded by the sale of the.
Yeah, but do you put in on the income side the sale of the building? Yeah. What?
It's just the accounting treatment is, we have to show proceeds and cost of disposal. What this is doing is just recognising that the cost of disposal won't be 25, which we previously had as a recommendation. The cost will be 36.5 potentially. So it's just really making you aware.
So I'm guessing.
It'll be funded by the proceeds and all.
Yeah, but you'll be putting in a budget on the income side of 500,000 if the commission is. I just.
It's large.
Yeah.
Go councillor Loudon.
Will the commission on sale be paid as a percentage of the sale price, or is there a negotiated commission regardless of the sale price?
If I may, yeah. Thank you, councillor. In the uniqueness of the sale of these buildings, the recommendation from the real estate agents, when we spoke to them, is that it will not be on the commission sale price. It will be on the value of the buildings when they're sold,
The percentage.
a percentage.
And what's the percentage negotiated?
So
I would be hesitant to answer it in public because it is a commercial arrangement.
That is the correct answer. But this highlights that this needs to come back into public excluded, at the very least, because it's a fair question to be asked by a councillor. Therefore, I can't, if you can't disclose that, which is correct, I can't deal with it here. So staff may wish to consider bringing this back to us later on this afternoon.
But if there's any, I think what Jared was trying to do is have as much in the open as you possibly wanted. So if there's any other questions that are through the open that doesn't go at financial route, then any of those questions are legitimate now, and then we can talk about the actual details. And
Yes, absolutely, more than happy to take any questions that are not relating to the terms of disposal, in effect.
No, sorry, I'll wait till, my question was probably best, out of this realm as well.
Councillor Loudon.
Just one question, how confident is the agent, in that they'll achieve a sale? We've had two agents that said no. How confident are you in the sale process?
All three agents have expressed how challenging a sale of this nature will be. And the potential outcome of sale is unknown. We won't know until we've gone through a process of getting expressions of interest from the market. And that's where the intent to have a marketing budget set aside to be able to canvass who may or may not be interested in this kind of opportunity exists. So.
Last one, councillor Moore.
honestly, I know some of us has to be in public excluded, but if it was in two recommendations where there was a marketing budget put forward and then we discuss commissions outside of, in public excluded, that would.
The marketing budget seems to have been linked in total to the figures we're talking about. I'll hold it over, councillor. So we'll move on.
So the last section is around writing off of old.
Sorry, can you just
Sorry.
stop a minute? I hadn't realised the councillor Rakawa, you had your hand up.
I was just going to, your worship, move recommendation 6.
Thank you for that.
Welcome. That the council agrees to write off the outstanding debt for Morkai Gravity Canyon. I'd like to move that.
Looking for a seconder to that. Councillor Moore, are you seconding? Sorry, you got it a little bit ahead of you. You wish to speak to it?
Pretty much that there is no funds available according to the liquidation report, and it's been going since 2016. Makes sense to write it off.
Looking for any other speaker?
Well, is the question or?
We can do that.
I'm always interested driving past these signs still on the state highway. But yeah, are we in a position where we can do anything about that?
Has the sign still got a stripe through it to say closed? I asked,
Oh, it's gone. Okay, it's
Something
gone.
else has got.
Beg your pardon, thank
Yeah.
you.
I asked for that stripe to be put on or to be removed, so.
No,
I
it's
put
sorted
that
then,
on
thank
immediately.
you. Stay my lane.
No further speakers, I'll put it to the vote. Those in, sorry, councillor.
Ask the question,
Yeah.
like the amount stated, I'm just curious, does that include the, penalties, or is it a straight up?
I have to go and check, councillor.
Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Thank you. But I still appreciate you getting back to the councillor to answer his question. Recommendation 7, we're up to that council agrees or does not agree to write off debtor balances to Linz, for Linz of 28,000. Can you take us through that or any questions? Perhaps Mr. Toombs, if you could illustrate this.
You couldn't add too much more than what's been written there. It's an old debt, but there's a lot of confusion over who's actually liable. In informal legal advice is that we'll probably not have much chance of seeking the funds out of a third party. So in terms of tidiness, best to get off the books.
My memory of this, and it does date back quite a long time, was that there was a substantial water leak there after the school had moved to Taiape Area School, but it was still being charged back to Taiape Area School, and because they did nothing about it, they just sat there. Perhaps, Galen, have you got any?
I can't remember in detail. You're correct in what you say. I also know some troughs were put in after they had moved as part of the farmland, which potentially could have caused a leak as well. So there were I think there were quite a few, discrepancies about what caused the leak.
I'll go councillor Duncan, councillor Hero, or councillor Duncan.
My understanding is that even 2 years ago, there was a leak in this building still happening, and that people were allowed to use the building on the condition that they actually turned the mains off to the building when they left and turned it on again when they were there and using the building. So my question is, has this actually been addressed? Is there still a leak?
There is, my understanding is there is still a leak. We'll go back a step. With the property, the water line runs from where the current buildings are right out to the railway line, and it diverts. So following this leak, 3 separate water meters were put in so that we could differentiate between where leaks were or who was using the water. There are still issues with the line that goes through the farm, what was the farmland. Yes.
The building itself has been fixed.
At the building, yes.
Thank you.
So after listening to that, I don't have any more questions. I don't have a question.
Linz are in control of the property. So they've been aware of a leak. Why have they either not fixed the leak or turned the water on permanently?
There was Linz, there was Derrick's and Collier's. There were a number of parties, and off the top of my head right now, I'm not sure which one is controlling it now. But there were all those different parties were involved.
Councillor,
Your questioning was going down the same line as mine. What protections are in place? Because this is quite alarming that we've still got an ongoing leak by the sound of it. We've got nobody owning who's actually paying the bill. And how much longer, or do we end up in a situation where a year's time we're writing off another bill? So at what stage do we put this in the line in the sand? Who's paying what?
So through you, your worship, so that's why the 3 water meters were put in. So if there is a leak, it will clearly identify which line, which building it's going to, and who is
So
responsible.
subsequent to that, by taking an action to potentially write off this debt, which clearly we're not going to be able to recover from anybody, I would suggest by the conversation. are we also making sure that we've got a significant action to place, that the matter is actually being dealt with? And someone who's using the water is either A, being charged for it, or B, fixing the leak. And if there is a leak, is there a chance that it's actually our problem? An ongoing problem for us? Is it actually a leak in our line somewhere that hasn't been identified? Because there's a lot of ifs sitting here. And I just wonder if the writing off of this is only just the start of something, so. I'm not quite really sure about that one. That's perhaps another conversation, but.
Essentially, we've got a bill here for water owed that we don't know who to charge. That's effectively it, isn't it?
Well, we can charge when no one's saying it's responsibility for it, yeah.
I'm happy
5
to
years
move
old.
it.
Look, it'd be useful if somebody put a motion on the table here, please,
Move
to move
that we
which,
write it off.
that you write it off. You seconding.
Yeah.
And you don't have a conflict of interest with regard to this?
I
Well,
do,
we
so
can
does,
ma-
so does the rest of the two councillors from Northern.
Okay, moving and second, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, I would like to move that it's been in here for a while, and it says that our in-house legal advisor advised he thought the cost probably belonged to RDC, and that's good enough for me, and I think it's time that it came off the books.
One question, please. Please ask a question. So if we vote against this motion, what's the council going to do? Is it-
If the council would try sending every party a bill in the hope that somebody would own up, and it goes round in circles.
Thank you.
If I can add to that, council votes not to approve this recommendation, the debt of 20 grand or whatever it is will sit on our books and it'll be subject to audit at year end, and audit will say you should fully provide for that debt, it's non-recoverable. So all we're doing by this recommendation is writing off an unrecoverable debt before financial year end. Separate issue of whether there's an underlying pipe issue still there is kind of independent of this recommendation.
I have a sympathy with that position.
Further to councillor Wilson's thoughts, with our 3 metres, have you established where this leak might be?
The one that caused the outstanding.
No, it's if you write this off, we need to actually establish a way forward with this problem, but otherwise it's going to come back at us.
By the way, because I said I have sympathy with it, I've got to regard that I spoke in favour. So there's 2 speakers in favour.
Can I just say, the answer to that question is that where the 3 water meters are going is not the issue, because they'd be paying. So if it's still water loss, it would be in our area, which presumably the water people would be dealing with. But it won't be any of those individual properties that are now metered.
And if it is, they'll be paying for it and then they'll fix it.
So that'll be
As long as
fixed.
they don't come for a remission because they've got a water leak.
Remember, this is 5 years ago, so there's been no issue between that 5 years ago and now in terms of those people that have been using it in their houses.
Look, councillors, we're heading to an inevitable position. Does anybody want to speak against this? Do you wish to have the right to reply? Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you.
There was one addition to the CE's report around the Three Waters reform that was sent out separately. So, and there's some recommendations associated with that report.
Would somebody like to move recommendation 8 that council notes the key principles of the local water done well policy then embodied in section 4? Councillor Hero, looking for a second to that. Councillor Duncan. Need for discussion or questions? No, put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried.
Sorry, can I just ask, why do we have to make that recommendation?
Yeah, perhaps I can answer that. The only reason why we're getting this through through this process is to formally recognise that you've considered it. So that if somebody was to challenge me as to whether you'd been here, it's been here.
Is it possible for somebody to move 9 and 10 together? Are you doing so?
Councillor Loudon I was just seconding.
All right. Does that mean you miss out on councillor Rakawa?
It's what? At least to Councillor Wilson.
Right, so move a councillor Loudon moving, you're seconding. Councillor Loudon, do you wish to speak to this with regard to 9 and 10? It's just noting.
Thank you for the work done.
I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to next, 10.1, certificate of exemption, remote camping grounds. Are you going to take us through this?
Excuse me. I just wanted to make a comment about the health and safety dashboard. I'll do that. At the beginning.
Yes, so.
Sorry about that.
No, it's right and proper.
I just wanted, can I just make a comment?
Certainly.
I just wanted to make a comment around it's probably not alarming, but it's not it's not good that abusive behaviour to our teams continues to be the highest wedge in the pie around our events and nemesis categories that we see. And I just wanted to note that.
Thank you. Moving then to 10.1, the exemption remote camping grounds. This has been something we deal with every year. Ms. Prince, do you want to take us through it?
So this is an administrative process that we need to do because we have remote campgrounds. And every so often we need to renew their certificates of exemption from the camping ground regulations. And we're proposing that if we could renew them to the 30th of September 2027, which aligns with the Mangaweka campground lease. Thank you.
I'm happy to move. Are you seconding, Councillor Dunkley? I'll speak to this. Look, this is truly an administration process we go through each year. Any other speakers or questions? Councillor?
Yeah, I 100% agree, but also to note somewhere in the report that staff still make regular visits and contact with these campgrounds. We're not parking them up and leaving them alone, so I think it's more than appropriate. Yep.
Any other speakers? Yes, Councillor Wong.
Just one question. I haven't heard anything, but have we had any problems arising from either of these campgrounds at all in the past?
There haven't been problems, but they have a regular maintenance upgrade process. And we've done quite a bit of painting and things at this one, as we have at Koitiata, etc. So.
Thank you.
I'll put it to vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. PMO reports. Who's going to take us through this? But while we're thinking who's going to take us through it, can we move reception, please? Move. Councillor Wilson moving, Councillor Hero seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you.
It's me. Thank you, Your Worship. So under my short-term management of the Project Management Office, I'm happy to talk through some of the projects. What I've asked Ishwa and Peter to attend in case there's specific areas that they can answer questions on. And also noting that yesterday there was a workshop and the day before, sorry, apologies, it said 28, 29 April, it was 28, 29 May. There was a workshop on the Martinville centralisation project, and so Peter is here to give a bit of a perspective on that workshop if that's valuable and next steps with that project, and then Ishwa's here to answer queries on his report as well as the Martin project.
Can I just ask, staff, how do you want me to deal with this? Do you want me to deal with it under the reports 3.1, 3.2, or go straight to?
Right. What we did this time is actually put more detail in the key highlights. So the Excel spreadsheet is useful, but it doesn't capture a lot of information. So we've got more information in the front end of this report. So if we do move to that first project under 3.1, Peter can answer some questions and give a perspective.
Excellent, thank you. Please fire ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. So yesterday we had a workshop. We had all parties from various consultancies just to have a workshop brainstorming ideas and brainstorming what is next on and what we will do. It was a good turnout and we had a good time, good day, and good ideas and good feedback has come from each and every party. So we're heading in the right direction. The next few months, we will create a long list of options, and we will streamline that to the short list. In September, we'll come up with a short list of that. Any questions? You're welcome to ask.
Just a question from me, in terms of that project group, does it include any governors at all? It includes iwi and community, but
Yeah.
who from council was on it?
Just to follow up on that, that came up yesterday. It's really two portions. The first is what is the structure to inform councillors, and I'll have to go back in the notes and just see what Adina put in place. I somehow remember we did select a number of councillors and we did form a group, a smaller group. So I'll go and check up what that is. And then the second portion of that is what is the communication strategy, so we can also communicate with the communities as exactly what's happening as we move along. So those two activities are with us to follow up, but I agree with you, Your Worship, there is something in place that just can't be more.
Thank you, councillor Okawa, is that a question?
Oh, no, it's all right. I need to come back with the.
Can you just take that on board? I'd like to see that process loop closed, please. Any further ones around Martin Paul's wastewater? The pipe bridges or underground or however you get through these creeks. How are you going in terms of a Horizons consent for that?
So
They have to be consented, don't they?
yeah, so they need to be consented, and we're in the process of finishing the design. Will be finished this week, and then we'll also consent next week or the week after.
Okay, thank you, councillor Wilson.
Just on that one, the issue with the creek or the river crossing and the pipes has been sitting around for some time. We just double checked that, I'm sure we have double checked that it still aligns with our recent decision for land and trajectory to get to. Have we just double checked that we're all on the same page on that one? Yes.
Through you, Your Worship, it's a really good comment, because we now have a piece of land, so we have to consider, do we need the complete link to be in place? And you have to be correct, it will be part of the evaluations as we go along. At the moment, we need them in. If anything changes, we won't spend the money.
Can I just have a slightly technical question? Are the pumping stations on this through this pipeline, or is it, what percentage of it is gravity? And the reason I ask that, I'm presuming there are pumping stations, but if we were to pump in the opposite direction with the pumps being put in place, is that possible?
Yeah, so we've looked at the pump design. The pump design has not been finalized yet. But the engineer involved, the GHD, and they have an option to pump it to a certain point and then gravity feed it back down to bulls.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is if, for instance, we decided to use that pipeline and pump from bulls back up the line with the pumps that we're putting in place, is that possible?
That is possible. And when we do the design, we'll have a deeper look into that.
You see why I'm asking this?
Absolutely, Your Worship. I think it's a really good question and it's good for the room also to absorb that. So because of the land we've purchased, we actually have a range of configurations of how we can use that pipe because it's so close to this piece of land. And His Worship is right. It could be a different configuration. We could potentially pump from Bulls to there or gravity from Martin to there or maybe to Bulls and then pump from there. There's a whole range, but the bottom line, and I think what's important to councillors is the position of the pipe and the land are complementary to each other and will work in a range of ways.
Just in terms of the consents over these bridges, is it a generic consent for the project? Or does each individual bridge have to have its own consent?
So this is solely for the bridges because it's crossing riverways, river paths.
Right,
So is it one consent or 5?
So it's one consent lodged for all 3 bridges.
thank you.
The design might be different because
Yeah, thank you.
But one further question, and I know the question's been asked and we've had it given to us, but we're asking it again. Easements and everything's all in place for the pipeline, bridges, and potential land for pumping stations. Have we got that box ticked and confident?
I can reply to that, Your Worship, if I may. Yeah, it's all on road corridor or council-owned property all along the entire route. Although on the Ratana side, it's more complex. There are private land involved there and some.
that's not here.
No, this is not this one. It's just in case there was some confusion. So there is some easements, but it's on the other project.
And that would account for pump stations and things should they be required as well.
That's only for the line. The pump station will be on council land.
The question there subsequent to that is, yes, I accept they're all on road reserve, but some of that road reserve is not under our control. It would be under NZTA State Highway 3. Where does that then sit? Do we have to rent or lease or?
No, Your Worship, no. So what happens there is when you apply to put the services in the corridor, everything's checked off by everybody and then they give you the permission to put it in there. And the idea is that you can then go dig it up and fix it if you have to, but we don't need an easement process.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy councillors move on. Moving on, 3.2, Ratana.
No, that's
Nothing there? Oh, sorry, councillor Hira.
Yeah, I'd just like to know whether or not, from the last, the April last one, the community board meeting which I'm part of, one of the things that they wanted to ensure, and I'm not sure whether this has happened, I'm just following up, given that this is part of the report, around the need for somebody to go out and talk to their community. I note that in our paper, it says that these horizons and that there's been a meeting with staff. I'm just asking whether or not there's a communication line is happening because there's a lot of angst that people have not been informed. And I don't know if it's, I'm just.
My knowledge that it hasn't happened, but it's an instruction that's given that we need to keep them informed.
we can check.
So I can only just follow that up.
It would be, because we've got a couple of staff here, it would be useful for us to know who's handling what here as we go through.
It's Claire King who's handling the ration.
Yeah, so this is not you guys.
So it's something that I can take up because there's no reason why we can't go and do it to a group or the community board or whatever, so long as they're all informed with it.
Can I just make another comment, please? So when we get the reports, it tells us that here's the things that are happening. And being part of that community, we're saying that it's happening in our reports when it's not.
That shouldn't happen. Part of the reason why we're breaking it up this way is to give each one of these ones an individual focus that allows this discussion to happen. And one of our questions was this, when we got to the finish of it, was this an appropriate thing? And so obviously it is, because it's bringing these things to the fore, which is good that we can then take up from these discussions, whereas I do think in the matrix that you had, it was quite hard to pick out. So the idea is that each of these will have a bit of focus each time that allows those questions to come forward.
Yeah.
So that answers that question, that this is probably a good idea going forward. And we can only take those questions. Most of the staff will be in front of you so that you can have the direct answers from the people involved. That's the way we're intending to structure it. And so I'll take it on myself to make sure that somebody briefs Ratana.
Thank you.
I'm just aware of time, councillors. I just do want to push on a little bit here. 3.3, Papakai, anything there?
Just quickly, if I may, I've had feedback from the community to ask that council is appraised of the fact that Fulton Hogan are in charge of the security fence. I'm sure staff are aware of this, but the community are concerned that will be completed in time so they can open the park.
Thank you.
I thought the opening part of the park was dependent on having it all completed before we set that date. So that was what I've been.
Sorry, what completed?
So my understanding is all the fence and those works are going to be completed before we have the opening.
Yes, sorry, I'm not actually speaking about the opening. I'm just saying that until that security fence is up, they cannot allow access to the park at all, whether there's an opening or not. The park basically has been closed off by the Friends of Taihape's fencing, and until the security fence is completed, no one can use the park or access it.
So the fence contractors appointed to install the fence this week and next week.
And you handling this one?
Yeah.
So
No, so
3.4,
there's actually Blair King.
Yeah.
But there's questions there, we can feed those back to him as well.
questions 3.4. No, moving on to water strategy, Martin water strategy.
The Ishwara is Martin water strategy.
Welcome.
You want me to go through all this, just take questions at this.
Is there nothing you want to highlight first?
Not at the moment, so except the fact, I mean, it's already in there, so we're just putting in a trial plan, we're expecting the trial plan to come in sometime tomorrow or the day after. I think that should give us better understanding of the quality of water, that's treated water, and also the back discharge thing.
The only question I have on this one, where it says the engagement with iwi saying that they don't want to return to the currently it goes up to the dams.
Yes.
Are you looking at removing that line?
At this point, no, I think it's just my impression from that conversation. It was a very initial conversation that I had with Evie on that. During that conversation, I just brought it up just to test the waters and see what their impressions will be like if the water is a lot cleaner than what it is at the moment. Is there a possibility for us to consider discharging to the stream directly? So that's pretty much there at the moment. So we also don't have enough backup data to go and ponder this more.
Right. Thank you. Further questions, 3.5? Timeframe?
We're still pushing for December at this moment, so it just depends on some of those power requirements. We're also working on backup. If the power doesn't arrive on time, how do we manage it? In terms of discharge volumes, we're still waiting on a design consultant to be appointed, and I think the treatment itself is okay. I think it's what's happening outside with the two bores, which we're trying to resolve at the moment. So that will give us a better idea of the time frames.
I just wonder in the report, it talks about the demolition.
It's minor
And
demolition.
I just wonder in terms of informing the public that there is some explanation of this.
Okay.
On, as a project update on our website. to say that this isn't, that most of what we've built and refined still stays there, but it will need to be altered by, or something like that. Otherwise, I'm gonna get people reading this report and
Your Worship, may I just make one comment that I think is really important for councillors to put in the back of their minds? As for project risks, there is a substantial risk that's been identified over the last 2 weeks with the power supply. The power supply needs one specific piece of equipment, and the lead times for that equipment could be up to 130 to 140 weeks, which is 3 years kind of numbers. There is one on a ship on its way, and we're trying to get the RDC stamp on that one. But I think this is important enough that I need to make special mention of that, so you're aware. We are trying our best to claim the one that's on its way, but there's a risk.
how, where's it coming from? Germany, is it?
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know.
If it's a small part, get on a plane and go buy one.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not totally joking with that.
Yeah, no, that's
Often, no, I've been in that situation. Councillor Wilson.
Just to reiterate my earlier comments on this one, and I appreciate everything you've said, Ishwa, and I know that there's a great desire to get this project done. Err on the side of caution, let's take the time to get it right and please, because there's huge expectations in the community. We need to front foot any delays and own those delays should they become apparent, and please bring them to us if they do, but let's own them together to get the best delivery on this one, so.
Councillor Rakawa, Councillor Loudon, Councillor.
Through you, Worship, just a question, do you have a plan B if we say no? They don't
To
want
discharging
discharge,
straight,
yeah.
we still have that existing option to discharge it to the dams. It's just for our own, we're just trying to see if there's is there a better way to discharge? Because we're not pushing that option to the consultants rather than we asking them. So we wanted to check with EV before we give them that flexibility.
Councillor Loudon.
And that leads on to my question. Are you coordinating with the Tootanui Stream Restoration Project group on that?
I wasn't aware of one, I'm sorry.
You would like to answer that? So through my parks activities, yes, we do. We have a lot of contact with them. We don't do anything there without notifying them first. So they are completely across everything that happens there.
Right, thanks. I'll move to Councillor Takere.
Thank you. I think it was last year, there was a fantastic infographic on the on this water supply and what you're proposing. I think it would be really awesome just to keep that going out to the public. It was very helpful. Thank you.
Moving to community facilities, Martin offices and library. You take us through this.
So just a reminder that we did, we had a workshop about this and we've taken your feedback and updated the project plan, and Ishwa is happy to answer any further questions on this one.
This is
And attachment page 52.
exactly where I was going to go. Thank you very much for your assistance. Right, go fire ahead, please.
So we've just gone through that in much detail over the last workshop. I'm just happy to take any further questions that's come up since we've had that discussion.
Councillor.
Just one question. Page 57, there's comment there, staff had set a budget 15 million to the architect to achieve a new building design proposal, which they did do. They gave you a framework for a building and but with the design build contract, the architects are sort of being moved aside. Is there any initiative within this program to have some sort of architectural input into the process?
Architectural input from who, if I may ask?
From externally or internally to
I remember having this conversation last time, so we do, though it's a design and build, there's a design consultant sitting on the other side. Unless we get to a point where the architects are not able to come up with a solution that we are happy with, we're not gonna look at an external feedback on that. So if everything is gonna flow smoothly, I don't see a need to engage another consultant to have other input. Unless specifically if there's a need to look at it, yes, we could, but I don't see the need for one.
So with this type of contract, design and build type contract, would be an architect that does work internally for the company that wins the contract, or a design team,
Yes,
if you like,
that's right.
instead of calling it an architect. So that design team does it, it comes back to you and your team to look at it and assess it. And if what you're saying is if you have questions around it, you can either go to a peer review or
That's
bring
right.
somebody else in.
That's right.
Is the peer review in that process an automatic process over the project, or is it on demand by your concern?
Personally, I've never had to go that route because as long as we are very clear with our requirements, the architect should be able to redesign and incorporate it. So
Yeah, I understand where you're going. Councillor Moore.
Want to move a recommendation. Council approved the project work plan for the Martin office and library redevelopment is without amendment.
We'll have to have a seconder to that. Councillor Wilson, you heard from the second that. But I'll take the questions are legitimate. I will take questions. Otherwise, I will get you to speak to your motion.
Yes,
Go ahead.
questions are good, but they're also relitigating some questions we had at the workshop last week on this topic. And I think the work plans looks good. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, by the way, councillors, you still have a right through this process to ask questions. In effect, that is one way of you getting your questions on in the public arena. Speakers to the motion.
A question.
Yes.
I believe that during the workshop, the mayor had raised that even though this was a budget-driven project, that there was physical aspects of the build were to be considered. Has that been included in this report? Do you remember?
No, can you remind me?
Well, we discussed this project, and even though cost was a important thing, we still thought the appearance of the building should be considered, whether it be cultural aspects or aesthetic cultures, as long as it's got a minimal impact on
the cost.
Yeah.
We have yep, so I thought that should have been
So there are touch points back to council with regard to this process. They are included in the process, that's correct.
That's right.
And there are avenues for council to raise an issue within that. We've had a speaker 4 and the other speakers 2. 4 questions.
I have a question. So with the, I'm just looking at the project structure. And thank you for this report. It's fantastic. It's very, very helpful. So just looking at that, if we go down, I see that the governance representatives, the mayor, the chair of A&I, deputy chair of assets and infrastructure is an alternate, and external iwi expertise. I can see within this project that that's completely appropriate, especially given that our mayor and deputy chair of assets and infrastructure are Martin-based councillors. But it does beg the question whether if a project of this importance was in a different part of the district, whether it wouldn't be also good to have a local councillor involved for their understanding of the community. But so in this context, I totally think that this is appropriate. But would this be something that staff might consider?
I think you'd consider that when that project comes in front of you.
Thank you.
Yes. Councillor Dalgety.
Just for clarity, just trying to establish in my mind that when that budget may be adjusted for CPI. So it goes out to potential contractors at 19 million.
At this moment, it is 19 million.
Yeah,
That's right.
so there's that, we just know that it possibly should be increased, but it's not been.
Yeah, at this moment, it is 19 unless we've got a understanding and it is altered.
But
For me,
remember,
it is 19.
that will come back to you with a price and what have you. I wish I didn't mention this, but the point I was making at that time was that when these projects come on board.
Yeah, I understand that. I was just
so-
wondering when it does happen then.
So this particular one will still come back to you at that time now as to what that price is before you tick it.
As it sits at the moment, the budget is 19 million.
That's
And some of the spending power of that resolution has dropped over time, but that's assimilated within the project at this stage.
If I
Councillor?
may, sorry, so this will become even more prominent when we come with our first draft, when we've had our first set of requirements finalized and everything, when we start designing and we start putting budgets to those design, I think this will become a lot more prominent at that stage where we stand. If we want to take that extra budget or are we still within that 19 million? Could we actually?
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Councillor Louder?
When you look, I like the structure and I like where you're going. I like the whole things. Whole point one.
Does that mean that you're speaking in favour of the motion?
I am, but I have a question around it.
Yeah, I caught myself out earlier to say that I agree, so.
My question is, basically, whole point one, preliminary cost estimated for council decision. Whole point two, present detailed cost estimates for council decision. It suggests that there's no other decision-making processes that council can make about cost, looking at the costs. Like, I don't want to be amongst the weeds, all right? I do not want to do that. But I'm just saying, is that limiting for council decision?
The way it is drafted, it's those major decision points, but otherwise, if I touch on the project structure, there's regular feedback that's coming back that will take you through all the design process that we're taking, thought process that is going in to get there. All of those things, I think, will be discussed during those stages.
So we will have sort of regular workshop type
I would think so.
processes.
Yes.
That's good, thank you.
Good explanation, councillor
Just
Heron.
one question. This becomes part of our PMO regular report. Thank you.
Any speakers with the motion? Otherwise, I'll put it to a vote. I'm going to proceed to a vote. Those in favour? Those against? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So just following on from where you've gone with that, so what we're intending to do is put this type of thing with a bit of flavour on for all of the projects. But in terms of Martin and probably Ty Happy, they'll have their independent reports that come here so that you are getting regular updates and that stuff. But I do think all the information was there historically. It's just hard to pick through. So this gives you a bit of a debate and opens those cross conversations up.
Councillor Rakawa.
I just want to say thank you to staff. I think from our last workshop, we wanted some background information and that's quite a few years that this has been on the table since 2008. Kia ora.
Thank you for the reminder.
Yes.
4, under miscellaneous. What's the feeling of that with you? Anything you want to report, or you just happy to take questions?
Looking for questions?
What page are we on?
So page 49, Scott's Ferry, and also 4.2, Taihape Hautapu Bridges, but we'll do Scott's Ferry first. Yes, councillor Wilson.
Very quickly, yes, no answer. The community of Scott's Ferry been engaged with on this matter.
We're going next week for a meeting, 6th of June.
There was a couple of changes of meeting time to fit in with people, so it's been a lot of communication. 4.2, the Hautapu Bridges, and there is a lovely picture of foundations on page 68. And I can tell you that one of those foundations has a $2 coin in the middle of a concrete 10-ton block. Must have accidentally dropped it in there. I can say to my mokapuna, my grandchildren, that somewhere in that block is a $2 coin. That's probably mine. Don't tell me that it's. Right. Councillor Duncan.
Just quickly, I just would like to commend the workers. They were under time pressure. They had to get a lot of this done before the 31st of April. Because of their consenting processes. They had weather problems, and they were just a very cheerful, committed team that got on with it. And just publicly like to say thank you very much and well done.
You wish to comment, councillor, on the army wishing to be involved?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. I believe that the army actually had an agreement with the Friends of Taihape a number of years ago that lapsed because of an inactivity, basically. But fortunately, the conversation was able to be brought up again at the opening of the Ngāawa block, in fact, when the army attended, which was great. And then this agreement has subsequently come across, and credit to Matt Thomas and the team for re-establishing that relationship. And this is a great outcome.
Thank you, councillor Hero.
And I would like to just recognise the work that councillor Duncan has done in this space. She's been a really great advocate for all the way through, and has built an excellent relationship with Friends of Taihape and Matt and his team. So I would like to recognise the work that councillor Duncan has done in this space as well, and others.
I'll go Chief Executive and myself.
I should also note, through you, and I'll pass it on to Mayor Andy, is that Matt actually sent a message of thanks and a card to the governors and the management for the amount of work that has been done to enable it to happen. So that's formally in your office now, should anybody be interested.
Just to letting you know, that interesting situations occurred with this. When we're doing the foundations, or one of the foundations that I was at, there was a bone, and I think I reported to council that I was told it was the elephant. However, there's been an update. So Awakuni believe that the elephant is not there. The elephant actually died at Awakuni, and the elephant's name is Molly, and they wonder if Mr. Byford is confused as a young child as to where he was standing at the time, because it would seem unlikely that two elephants died within a relatively short distance of each other. However, at Awakuni, there is a memorial to Molly, the elephant that died on the spot. Maybe there were two. However, I might have misled council on the advice I was given, who knows? Right. We've done all that. Would somebody like to move the receipt of the minutes from all of those as a block?
Right.
Councillor Hira, Councillor Rakawa seconding. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. There were no recommendations that we need to deal with by way of those minutes.
I did have some notes, if you could just give me a minute. Sorry,
Yeah,
my
I'll-
building's closed down.
We'll afford you that,
Well, a question,
yes.
what happened to the said elephant bone?
It wasn't an elephant bone, we think it was a cattle bone.
Okay.
It didn't look like an elephant bone, big enough, but we didn't frame it or anything.
Thank you.
Was it you? No. Sorry,
Councillor Duncan.
I'm having problems with my tech. It won't open. You're talking.
Okay, well, look, if there's something urgent.
I'll go back to start, thank you.
Would somebody like to move that we move into public excluded?
Happy to move, your worship.
For the reasons.
As for the reasons stated and recorded in the order paper of today.
And including the other paper that we've brought forward.
Yes, including that one as well, further discussion from today's earlier meeting.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder to that, please? Councillor Loudon on the score sheet is seconding. Are those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Carried. You're just in time for us to take a break.
Good.
Yes.
So, and as we've been going through. Quarter of an hour, councillors, please. And we'll move into public exclusion.